In the dark, I play my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. That's love in everything. Bringing change, making it last.
Welcome to episode 340 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. The only Pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living.
Permaculture, P-I-M-P, with soulful rays. In the Pimpcast, where we find our place.
Oh yeah, thanks everybody for being with us tonight. Episode 340, I can't even believe it's been that many episodes already. Good night. And here I am with the Homestead Honey. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You can lower your mic if you need to. It looks like you're, like a kid on the stage and can't quite reach the mic. You can articulate this thing. I know she's not in here often enough to know exactly how everything rolls. Anyway, this episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! Living Soil Foundation. Yeah, this Sunday, we are going to have results for you. So we're going to have Dr. Will on, along with Pat Miletich, world champion UFC fighter turned soil scientist, and also our engineers that came out. So we're going to have a combination of Dr. Will's results along with the engineers on this site, and I think everybody is going to be pleased. So then in later episodes, I'll come up with a protocol. Maybe we might even do it there on Sunday. I might even tell you what we did and the proportions that we did it and how we did it in record time. So
what time Sunday?
It's going to be 6:30. So 6:30 Eastern. So be there, be square. Look, we need some good news with all the dumb stuff that's happening in the world right now. I mean, what did Dane Wigington report? How many was it?
1,200 year storm.
No, 1,000.
1,000 year. Yeah.
12,000 year storms in 3 days. And then they quit counting. I mean, he didn't even tell you how many happened since then. I mean, since then it's been New Jersey and a number of others. Anyway, folks, there is a lot of awful things that go on, and we're going to go into hopefully a little bit of detail on that on Sunday, telling you exactly what the problem was. And we're going to probably, to some extent, cover some of that tonight. What the problem was and what the problem almost certainly is in some of these other areas. And we're going to have a short clip to play tonight. And which button is that going to be? Is it?
Well, it's not on a button. I'm just going to have to manually start playing it whenever you want me to play
Okay,
it.
Since we don't have anything from Eric tonight, so after I do my third good news story, just get that thing queued up and we'll go ahead and talk about it. But folks, we're going to have some exciting news. So everybody coming in, please hit that thumbs up and tell everybody we're live. So you're going to be hearing a podcast today that I've wanted to put together for a while, and you're going to hear things from Michelle. You're going to hear it from her perspective. Of course, I'll be chiming in from time to time, but you're going to mostly hear it from a woman's perspective. I mean, we always hear it from a guy's perspective. A lot of women don't really talk about this stuff in a lot of the podcasts out there. And if they do, they're never coming from it from the perspective that Michelle and a lot of you out there are coming from. So, yeah, this ought to be good. So anyway, we just got to make sure she doesn't get too nervous. You got to stay calm, be yourself. She's always the smartest one in the room. This is also one of the biggest complaints I tell her I have with her. She's always the smartest one in the room, but she'll acquiesce when anybody else is in that room, except for me. So I'm the only one that knows this, and it's true. I'm the only one that knows this, so hopefully tonight you'll get a piece of that. So, yeah, Renewed Homestead. I don't know if they're in the house or not.
I don't think so.
Okay. So anyway, hey, you know the deal. Don't start no SH and there won't be no IT. So we'll start with the farm news. Been in a full court press of weed eating because I'll be honest with you folks, like so many of you out there, it's that time of year where I just let things, I didn't let them get away from me, but with the mountain of all the things we were doing, whether it was not renewing, but working on that site out there that we're going to talk about on Sunday. And also, you know, we got a couple of sites, clandestine sites that nobody knows about except for Dr. Will, that we've been working on as well we'll talk about that. And honestly, we've been spread so darn thin that things are just kind of getting away. So now I got silvergrass in areas where it was going away. And because I didn't stay on top of it, now for those that don't know, this Chinese silvergrass was brought in by the government, highly invasive. There are entire fields out here that nobody can graze because nobody knows how to get rid of it. But we do. And honestly, like I said a moment ago, she came up with a protocol to do it. But as far as what the problem was, how to get rid of it, how to keep it gone, and how to put awesome grasses in its place, because frankly, nothing will eat this stuff. Well, anyway, part of that protocol, especially in summer, is to take your weed eater. Yeah, it's laborious, but it's not like you can get an animal to eat it. So you're going to have to do it until you get a handle on it. So, Michelle, what did you discover about this stuff?
Well, my theory was that silvergrass, because if you look and see where it grows in highly disturbed, like where they've put a highway through. So in highly disturbed, very sunny locations. So my theory was that it was probably bacteria dominant soils. And if you could just get them more fungally dominant, then it would create the habitat that they couldn't thrive anymore.
Yeah, so down in our food forest was one of the areas where we tried first. And we went ahead and did her protocol. It sounded absolutely sound to me. And I was like, okay, this is fantastic. So we went down there and we have one tiny little spot where it still persists. And honestly, it would just take no time at all. Just go out there, weed eat it, cover it up. So like she said, if it likes a sunny, compacted location, well, an area that's highly fungal dominant is not going to be compacted. And, so maybe if you have some of these invasive things, find out what they dislike and then create the environments out there. Maybe what you want there is a pasture, but maybe what the good Lord or nature wants out there is going to be a silvopasture. Maybe it's a food forest. Maybe it's an orchard. And don't think that just because you have an orchard out there, you can't run animals in it. We do it. And in fact, 2 days from now, we're going to do it again in another area of the farm that these animals have never been before. And then we have a method that we created I don't know that we created it, but we're going to employ to keep the animals off the things that are very juvenile. So, just find out what those nasty, pesky things don't like. Create the opposite environment, because you'll find out the more you optimize that environment, the more you're going to get the things you do want. So anyway, going back to my weed eating, because I didn't stay on top of this stuff, now I am dealing with a nightmare. It ain't no fun. So here's what the protocol looks like, at least in the area where I don't want to necessarily make a food forest out of it. So here's what you do. And I've talked briefly about it before. You want to go down there, and Michelle, like I said, was the one who basically kicked all this off. You want to go out there, you want to weed eat this stuff plumb down to the ground. Okay. Try not to get the stuff around it because it grows in clumps. Okay. Get it plumb down to the ground. And then when you're in the middle of summer or anywhere near the hot weather, throw down buckwheat and cowpea and make sure you inoculate that cowpea with some,
it's like a mycorrhizal inoculant.
Yeah. Do that with the cowpea, inoculate that stuff, and then plant those two out there. They grow like nobody's business, and they will shade out all of that silvergrass so it can't, its life cycle, it can't stand to be highly disturbed over and over and over again. And these people seem to think that by burning it, it only makes it worse. And then, by the way, when you burn it, you're turning your soil into terracotta.
Yeah, you're killing all the life in your soil. The life that you want in there, you're killing it.
Right. So the advantage that you had, you're just putting yourself even further behind. So don't do that. So you're going to have to weed eat it or mow it plumb down to the ground. Throw in high levels of buckwheat and cowpea. Not only is it going to shade that stuff out, you're also putting some beneficial stuff back into the soil. And then the cool thing is now, instead of me having to go out there and harvest any of this stuff, I could eat it if I wanted to, but why not just let the sheep do it for me? So they're going to cover it up, and they're going to be back on it maybe late summer or mid to late summer. Anyway, this stuff has such a fast life cycle. As long as the weather's warm, man, I can keep putting it out there if they get on it a little bit too early. So there's no negativity to this. I mean, your cowpea is going to be putting that nitrogen It's a nitrogen fixer, and then your buckwheat's going to be adding structure.
And
So-
also the bees absolutely
Oh,
love
yeah.
the buckwheat. They will be all over that when it flowers.
Well, if it flowers, because I'm sure there'll be a fair amount of it that is, depending on where they get it. But I'm even getting a little bit started late on that anyway. It doesn't even matter with buckwheat and cowpea. In Texas, during this time of year, you can't grow anything except buckwheat and cowpea. And that was also her discovery as well. So, ladies, take a bow out there. Michelle, I think you're going to have to scroll down. It won't.
Yeah,
keep
why is it not
because you're
moving?
not all the way down. You got to. There you go. So, anyway, that was another one of her discoveries when we were struggling trying to figure out. Okay, we got bare soil out here, man. What are we going to do with this? Man, we put that buckwheat and cowpea down in
But
the
we
middle
had to
of,
water it.
at first,
Yeah.
at first, and it was on these swales that we put in. So, folks, you will not be able to see the soil, but hey, when it goes dormant, when it's time to go back, that's when you can come in with your heavy hitters. You can come in with your trees, your shrubs, your vines, all the things you want to put out there. So, once again, one of her discoveries that we're making good use of. So, anyway, that's why I'm having to weed eat like nobody's business. And I'm getting stung. I got this, looks like a baseball on the side of my leg because they're lighting me up from time to time. But hey, stupid should hurt. Okay. It should hurt. So I should have got ahead of this stuff a long time ago. I didn't. And now I'm paying the piper. So other farm news, the sheep are going to be in the other part of the orchard that you don't really see much in any of the videos. So we're going to capture that on video. They're going to be out there. Let's see. They're going to be in the area they are for 2 days because it's a bigger area. Then we're going to put them in this area where they're going to hit an orchard. They're going to do us usually you got to spend a whole 2 days
Weed eating
because everything has been so juvenile. Now things are getting big enough to where we feel like we can put the sheep in there. Yeah, we're going to put some rings around them to protect things. But by and large, I think they can do a fantastic job over there. So, and then plus their fertility ain't going to hurt nothing. Now they will do a little bit of disturbance over there, but the cool thing about it is if you weigh it out in your mind, when they go into an orchard area, I know that they were going to tear a few things up, but the net benefit outweighs what I know they're going to destroy. So that's something I factor into this. Now, when things are all juvenile, no, I'm not going to let them in there. But now this area is one of the least mature areas on the farm, and now it's time to let them in there. They're going to eat some things probably, I just got to protect the young blueberries. That's the big thing right now because, man, they will eat those things plumb down to the ground. Other things we did today, man, every time we had to run errands today. So we got to do that maybe once every week, once every 2 weeks or so. And good night, man. It just feels like you just spent a whole day and you feel wore out because of it. So,
Well, I
you
think-
love to shop, don't you?
No, especially not in Asheville.
Yeah, well, especially not where some of the places we had to go, Sam's. And then our grandbaby loves this granola that
It's a granola. It's a paleo granola that doesn't have any oats in it, so she can eat it. So we had run out, and we had to go get her some more.
Yep. So we'll be sending that along with some freeze-dried peaches that Grandpa made for her. And those freeze-dried peaches are off the chain. Here's another little phenomenon going on, and we're going to talk about this later on in the show, but I don't know if anybody else is experiencing this, but we're having storms pretty much every day, every other day, it seems. They come in the evening, they come midday, and they're bad storms. And here's the crazy part. Maybe once in a season, maybe once every 2 years, you'll see it. All the storms would typically come from the southwest to the northeast. And every one of these storms, almost every single one of them is coming from the east, from northeast to southwest. And typically, folks, when you see that sort of thing, you know it's going to be a bad storm. But every single storm we've been hit by lately has been these gully washers, and they're coming from the northeast to southwest. I'm wondering if anybody else is seeing this or whether we just had that a coming. But you would see that it's typically a sign. Like I said, when you see a storm coming from the opposite direction, you always know it's going to be bad. I don't care whether we lived in Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Texas, it doesn't matter. That's always the case. Whenever you're in any of these areas, whenever you see it coming from the opposite way, you always know it's going to be bad. And like I said, you would see these things so infrequently that you really did pay attention. But now all of them seem to be coming from that direction as of late. So I'm wondering if anybody else is seeing that out there. Oh, let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, okay. I've already talked about that. So once again, folks, I want to remind everybody that we're going to be talking Sunday about the results regarding the testing that we've done out there through Living Soil Foundation. We already know what the results are, but we are going to give it to you again, and we're going to have you hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So Dr. Will, Pat, the whole gang is going to be on here, and hopefully we get to talking about, look, I know everybody's looking for a sort of Damocles or some way to, hey, let's say you got a polluted area or an area that just doesn't have good soil or whatever the case. Everybody seems to think, hey, I put this stuff down and then we're good to go. But Michelle, it's a little bit more than that. Your management still can't be sloppy.
Right. Yeah. Here's just another side note, just a comment on the weather. Andy Pearson said he's in Tonganoxie, Kansas. He said we got almost 4 inches of rain early this morning here in Tonganoxie.
Yeah.
That is unheard of. 4 inches of rain at one time.
Yeah. This is no accident, folks. And like I said, we'll cover that. We'll get more into that here in a little while. But yeah, that's there's some crazy, weird, unbelievable stuff going on. And for a lot of ladies out there, email me, and part of the impetus for doing this show is a lot of you are very awake. You see things for what they are, but you're married to a guy who, or your boyfriend, all he wants to do is go to the lake on the weekend. You try to have these conversations with him, and he's a hoople-headed moron. I don't know how else. I can't say it nicely. I mean, if you're a man that doesn't look after his family, then you are worse than an infidel. Okay, and I'm not known for like mincing my words or whatever, but look, I can't stand those guys. If all you can talk about is what happened with the latest sports team or what happened on some TV show, we ain't going to have a whole lot to talk about. So, yeah, I feel for you. But anyway, we'll come to that in a little bit. Anyway, Wave Watch, Billy 100 will get you $100 off. Wear that thing. I wore it today when I went to town. I didn't need it, but I mean, I got it there just in case. So everybody's always wondering, and I got my hair cut, and the barber lady, she's always wondering, man, that is a giant watch on your wrist. And I wear that thing, believe me, religiously when I'm going anywhere near a mob of other people, because I dig my solitude. I like being alone for the most part, unless I'm in the company of people who have sense. And these days, folks, you know how hard that is to come by. Anyway, if I got to be around a bunch of hoople-headed morons, I'm going to put on that Wave Watch, and Billy 100 will get you $100 off. All right. Redemption Shield. Look, when we do this show, we're G'd up from the feet up, and I can't even believe Michelle actually has her, I'm looking at it right now, she actually has her feet on the same grounding mat that I do. And so we're G'd up from the feet up. If you want one, Perma will get you 10% off over at Redemption Shield. Now, coming up this weekend, William, that's why he's not on the show right now. He's at Kentucky Sustainable Living. That kicks off tomorrow through the 20th. So that's going to be in Bowling Green, Kansas, folks. It's not too late to get over there.
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
I'm sorry. Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm sure there might be a Bowling Green, Kansas.
You saw Bobby and thought about Kansas.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and Bobby, hey, he's got Midwest preparedness, and that's going to be coming up here before you know it. So maybe he's out there too. Maybe he's going to be at the Kentucky Sustainable Living. So give him a shout out, Bobby. I know all the ladies out there want to hear. They want to know what time it is. Anyway, that's going to be going on this weekend, and that is in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Go to ksl.com or Kentucky Sustainable Living. You'll get all the information right there. Homesteaders United Jamboree is coming up August 28th through the 30th. I will not be there, but they do have an event going on. But I will be at the East Tennessee Homestead Alliance Festival, and that's going to be September 12th and 13th in Knoxville, Kentucky. Knoxville, Tennessee. Man, I'm messing up. I'm calling Kansas, Kentucky, and back and forth. Knoxville, Tennessee. That's going to be September 12th and 13th. I'll be there, and I'm going to be talking about exactly what we're doing. The incredible things that we're doing to change the soil in a massive, massive way. All right. So with that said, we're going to get into the good news. Let's just see how good this stuff is these days. All right. So the good news, over 14 million children. Now this is coming from the UN. Over 14 million children did not receive any kind of vaccine in 2024. Now, man, I'd say that's good news because that means people are getting the memo. And we're talking over in Europe where people just blindly follow whatever the government's saying. After this latest debacle, it seems everybody's saying,
Yeah, they're waking up to vaccines.
yeah. So we got to be cautious, how the ground we tread on on that topic. But anyway, it's really, really awesome to see that people are saying, I don't know about this. I mean, I would think they would be further along, but hey, it's Europe, man. I mean, and no offense to all the folks out there. Yeah, what's Bobby saying in here? Yeah, Michelle, we can't have long dramatic pauses.
Well, I'm trying to read it. I don't have my.
Okay, sorry, Bobby, can't read it. Anyway, anyway, we got another one here. Central bank ramps up domestic gold purchases, often sourcing local mines. Okay, so you got to ask yourself, why is that happening? Why are so many people in the Trump administration all of a sudden buying tons and tons of Bitcoin? You ever wonder why? Do you think maybe or all of these insiders, there's a whole lot of insider trading going on. Every time Trump calls a new tariff on whomever, there's a lot of people paying attention to this, and they're saying, hold on, man. These people all know something's about to go down, and they're in here like politicians always do. They know something's about to go down, so they'll short something that they know is about to go awry. Okay? So when you see central banks buying gold and silver in record numbers, not silver so much because they're relying on these silver certificates, but when you see them buying gold and a lot of people in the Trump orbit all of a sudden buying Bitcoin, you might be asking yourself, do I want to be stuck in the US dollar, which is quite literally paper? It's not worth the paper it's not printed on. And this stuff has been hypothecated so many doggone times. I mean, you don't even know what you're dealing with anymore. So I'm not your financial advisor, but when you start seeing a bunch of central banks all making the same move, you might start wondering what's about to go down. I'm not saying anything will, but at this point, would anybody be shocked? I mean, with all the with all the nonsense going on in this world right now, don't know what to tell you. Anyway, number 3, and the reason I'm calling that good news, by the way, if you're thinking, well, that doesn't sound like good news. Yeah, it does, because you got a heads up. In fact, Bobby Spags in here, I learned about silver from him years ago. I mean, the value of having, not just silver, brass, copper, gold, silver. I mean, lead, even, the things to propel these things. There is a value in all these things, and silver is an industrial metal. So, and it's the poor man's gold. So maybe you might want to consider some of that stuff. So the reason why I'm saying that's good news is that at least you have a heads up. Yeah, you can get yourself caught up, folks, and it's not terribly difficult. I'll leave it there. We don't have silver sponsors for this show, but I'm sure you can find them. Anyway, common sweeteners. This is number 3. Common sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose may trigger early puberty. Okay, why is that good news? Because you know about it. And like G.I. Joe says, knowing's half the battle. First of all, you shouldn't be eating any of that garbage anyway.
That's probably the least concerning thing that they do.
Yeah, if you knew how aspartame even came on the market, folks, it would blow your mind. And what if I told you it led all the way back to Donald Rumsfeld? Yes, it did, back when he was in the Reagan administration. I mean, this dude, Cheney, all of them, they were slimy, sleazeball SOBs from the word go. From the very, very beginning. They knew aspartame would basically put holes in your brain, and they snuck it in. They knew for the longest time this stuff, no way, no how. Sucralose, same thing. They knew that you should not be consuming this stuff. So why is that good news? Because you're better off just eating regular sugar. I mean, like this thing with Coca-Cola. Oh, so yeah, we're going to start adding sugar into our Coke. Okay, let's do the math on this, y'all. And let's stop and think about this. Now, RFK Jr. and some of the others, yeah, they're champion. Okay, you're still going to pump us up with mRNA, or at least you think you are, but they got this self-replicating stuff out there. We go a little sideways here. And they're going on about, hey, Steak and Shake, they're now using beef tallow. But here's what they don't tell you, is that it's par cooked before they cook it in the beef tallow. And what was it cooked in?
I don't remember what it was.
Vegetable oil.
Yeah.
So they cooked it halfway in vegetable oil, flash freeze it, and then send it off to the Steak and Shake. And then when you get there, you don't know that it's been flash cooked in vegetable oil, probably canola. And now all of a sudden they just dip it in the fryer and all of a sudden you got it on your plate. But they're telling you it was cooked in beef tallow. But they're not telling you that the beef tallow, it wasn't cooked with beef tallow all the way through that process. That's number one. What do you think they're going to do with Coke? They're going to tell you sweetened with natural sugar. Okay, so tell me something. You ever drink a Mexican Coke? You ever drink a Coke from Mexico? It's totally different. Have you ever had one?
Yeah.
Okay. How does it taste?
It doesn't even taste like the same product.
No.
It's completely different.
Mexican Coke has real sugar in it, not this high fructose corn syrup. But I guarantee, you heard it here first, folks, mark my words on this. Here's what they're going to do. They're going to have big campaigns sweetened with sugar, but they're not going to tell you how much sugar's in there. And I guarantee you, they're still going to have the high fructose corn syrup in there as the primary sweetener. Guaranteed. 100% guaranteed. And everybody's going to buy it hook, line, and sinker, just like they did with this Steak and Shake thing. Folks, we got a bunch of criminals in there. I mean, old boss, same as the new boss, same as the old boss, however the saying goes. I mean, look, I know I lose a lot of people when I start coming down on this, but hey, I didn't hear anybody complaining when I was coming down on Biden like a ton of bricks. So when these people go sideways, I'm going to let you know about it. And the ones who think, oh, I love Donald Trump, to hell with you, you arrogant, blah, 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 blah. Look, hey, if you're in the cult, and yes, it is a cult, don't know what to tell you. I know what to tell you. I'll tell you the same thing. I'll tell you the same thing Samuel Adams told folks during the Revolution. May your chains set lightly upon you, okay? I don't play this cult of personality. And if after what you've just heard with this whole Epstein thing and everything else that's just unfolded right now, if you're still on board, I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I can't imagine how you're on board. He essentially just flipped the middle finger to all of his followers. How can you possibly still be supporting him? He ran on this, on revealing the Epstein files, and now he said, "Are we still talking about them?" I mean, how much more clear does he have to make it that it's like it's a personal attack as the way it seems. It's like he's intentionally saying, I really don't care what you think.
Well, that's exactly what I'm getting at. You might want to cue your phone up.
For what?
The thing you were going to play?
It's on the computer.
Okay, I'm wondering how we even play it before we actually. Well, look, we got a little bit of a communication breakdown here. Look, it's supposed to be like queued up where I can push the button here on the Roadcaster and we can get this thing
You're
going.
not pushing any buttons.
Okay, I'm not. Okay, we got before you start discombobulating everything, let me handle a couple of things here. Look, bottom line is, folks, everything you think you know, and the hardest people, I'm going to offend some people here, but since when do I care about that? Okay, the hardest group to wake up with, and present company excluded, of course, the ones that are tuning in right now, the hardest people to wake up are baby boomers.
Yes.
By far.
Yeah.
People that I know that are absolutely square. If I said their names right now, everybody would know about them. And I don't know what it is with the baby boomers, but the generation prior to them, like your grandmother's generation,
right. Yeah,
completely awake. Completely awake.
And
my generation, your generation, for not completely awake, but the ones that aren't worried about going to the lake every weekend, The ones that are paying attention are at least like, yeah. But the ones who are absolutely 100% dismissive of all the things we're going to talk about here in a minute,
Not just dismissive, they don't want to hear it.
that's dismissive.
But they will get upset with you for even bringing it up.
Yeah, they will absolutely cut you down. Now, not all baby boomers, but for the most part, I have never seen, I mean, you know, I was thinking, okay, it's a cliche or whatever, but man, it's absolutely true. Like I said, there are some famous baby boomers that we know that when you bring up any of these topics, they will dismiss it out of hand. And like I said, if I mention the names here, you would know who they are. And it blows my mind. You'll say, how can you be so awake regarding farming and all these other things and be absolutely clueless regarding some of these other things that are as plain as the nose on my face? But there are some within my generation as well. So, yeah, good luck on a lot of that stuff. All right, I'm going to handle the ad here, and Michelle's going to get this thing queued up. So, EMP Shield, y'all, $50 off with promo code PERMA. Look, things jump off, and judging by the way things are going, they're probably going to. Look, you're not going to the club, you're going to the house. Or if you do go to the house, and let's say you have one of these thunderstorms like I'm talking about that are coming out of the opposite direction, and they're coming at you, and you get struck by lightning and it blows everything up, downstream, they're going to cover you for 25 G's. So EMP Shield will get you squared away, whether it's on your vehicle, your ATV, your solar, your generator backup, you name it. They got an application for everything. But the one I love the most is definitely, I also use it as a means to know whether or not my commercial power is operating. That's another application altogether. But anyway, EMP Shield, $50 off with promo code PERMA. Now, Michelle's going to queue up this thing. It's going to kind of set the stage here in a minute. Actually, why don't you wait until we get into that? I want you to wait until we get to that topic. Now, we're going to jump right into it, folks. And I got a list of topics here, and you're going to hear it from a female's perspective. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not a biologist. I mean, am I allowed to call you a female these days?
Yeah, I don't know if you're qualified.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so we'll wait to play that. Somebody says, King G, Billy, keep your shirt on. Okay, I'll keep it on. Put on your raincoats because I'm about to drizzle. Anyway, look, I want you to hear this stuff. You always hear from me and William, or maybe I have a guest on talking about some of this stuff. Very seldom do you hear it come from a lady's perspective. And honestly, with some of these things, I don't know what she's going to say. But I'm going to give her, we'll culminate with chemtrails. We'll save that one for last. Because Michelle does have a background. She has a degree from University of Kansas with honors in environmental science. And she's always been heavy on this stuff. And for a while there, before she came out of the Matrix, there was a point where she might have been believing some of the doctrine nonsense she was hearing.
Let me just clarify.
You were on board for a while.
Let me just clarify. When I was going to the University of Kansas, the whole climate, they were still talking about tax credits. The whole climate thing was very new. So there were a lot of people, the universities weren't as indoctrinated and funded as they are today. So it was very early on. But I will say there were a lot of people that when climate change was discussed, they're like, wait a minute, carbon tax credits is the solution to this?
Who was the one who said it? As soon as they said it, I was like, I go to you and I was like, what on earth is this carbon tax credit? I already knew Al Gore was a piece of garbage. And you were teetering on the line of whether or not you were going to be a brain dead liberal or...
No, I was very, when it comes to environmental things, I have more liberal tendencies because honestly, the corporations the laws are not enforced for the corporations.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. So before we come to that, because look, y'all, she's going to go full straight up Shaniqua on here.
No.
Yeah, she's going to go full Shaniqua Laquan. If we start talking about it now, that's why I wanted to save it for last. So I'm going to ask you about a series of things, and we're going to hear it from your perspective instead of mine. So I'm going to pick up, just randomly some of the biggest, man, I hate the term conspiracy theory because, by the way, it was invented by the CIA or at least brought back by the CIA. But I'm going to ask you about a series of things, and I'm just going to ask your opinion on it.
Okay.
So we're going to start with what happened. What are your thoughts of 9/11? Okay, the official story is a bunch of 7-Eleven workers jumped in a plane, stole it, and flew it into the Pentagon. And in the
I think they couldn't have come up with a more ridiculous theme. I don't know exactly what happened. There's a lot of theories out there that I mean, there's a whole range of theories, but I know 100% for sure you did not have a bunch of people who have barely flown a plane before fly it into the Pentagon, fly it into the trade centers. It did not happen. There is absolutely no possible way.
When they can't get a Top Gun pilot to be able to recreate the maneuvers that these guys supposedly did a corkscrew turn and then land right into the records area of the Pentagon.
Right.
No debris on the ground. I mean, there's no wreckage of a plane even out there.
And then all of a sudden, first of all, you had Building 8 fall, Building 7 fall, which nothing hit it. And they announced that. And I remember thinking when the thing happened, like how did that building fall? Nothing even happened. And then information back then didn't come out as readily as it does now. So you had this slow leak of information, and architects and engineers were one of the people that came out and did a documentary on it. And the thing that stuck out to me was the buildings fell at free fall speed, which means the resistance below had to be knocked out somehow. So that didn't the official story wasn't accurate. And also, that was the first time that you had a metal building burning that actually came down like that. They had buildings burning for longer periods of time at hotter temperatures that did not fall.
Yeah, and some of it kind of recently. Well, it was also funny, yeah, and then mysteriously, they couldn't find the black boxes. I've had a guy from the FAA when I was doing terrestrial radio tell me that on live radio, and of course the station managers at the time did not want to hear this. He says, yeah, there's only been like 2-3 times in history we've never found the black box, and it all happened on 9/11. He said we've had F-15s going Mach 2 or whatever into the side of mountains, and we still found that box.
But they found the passport.
Yeah, I guess
the paper passport.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's reasonable. I mean, I'm sure like Thor's hammer, it was forged in the heart of a dying star, and they were able to find this passport through all that wreckage. But you know what? The United States of Amnesia will believe anything. All right, let's move on to the next one. What are your thoughts on, the powers that shouldn't be, the mainstream media, even the people in the so-called, what Dr. Shiva calls the not so obvious establishment, people like Alex Jones who are complete shills for the modern administration. And there's a number of others out there too that are doing the same. What do you think about this mass surveillance? Because a lot of people are saying, oh, it's not happening. What are your thoughts on that?
They're saying mass surveillance isn't happening?
Some people are saying that it's not. I mean, you got a phone, you got a bugging device, you got your home.
Then how is
Alexa.
it that, like, whatever? And some people even think, okay, let's say, how is it that something that you do a search for pops up on another device? Or some people, I've even heard it's progressed as far as you don't even have to do a search now. It's as far progressed if you even think about something and it pops up on your phone.
I've had it happen. Honestly, I've had it happen where I was like, no way, first time it happened. And I've had it happen again and then again and again and again. And I'm like, okay, well, and it was honestly so creepy that I didn't even publicly talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mention that I've actually had that happen where the things I was thinking about that just show up somehow in the feed.
Yeah.
So mass surveillance. Well, folks, why do you think they're building all of these data centers right now? Look, I'm an IBEW journeyman electrician. You know what the hottest jobs are right now in this country? Data centers. You know what they were 10 years ago? Data centers. You know how I know? Because I worked in these data centers. I was a quality control guy before I retired. I was a quality control guy in Sherman, Texas. I won't name the company, but I was basically, before they got out of there, I would inspect everything and make sure everything was hunky dory before it left the building. Okay. We were building these pallets with all of this stuff for data centers. We were working 7 days a week, 12-hour days. And we still, I mean, all the overtime you wanted. And of course, which was music to my ears because I was trying to do everything I could to, lead myself into the life we currently have. So anyway, that place is even bigger now with more people working there. And all they do is build our own prisons. Data centers, for the last 15 years of my career, that has been the number one sweet spot. And guess what? It is today too. In fact, out of my local in Kansas City, good night. They have so many data centers going up there, folks. They got so many people working from out of town. They can't even keep up with the work. That's how crazy it is right now. So, yeah, mass surveillance, I guess you're a yes on that one. Okay, what are your thoughts on vaccines and autism?
I think I'm a little late to the party when it comes to vaccines. Up until recently, I hadn't done the research. I wasn't sure what to think about them. I had all my vaccines, and the part where I started to wake up and question stuff was honestly through the military when you get like before every when you go in, you get a whole bunch of shots. Before deployment, you get a ton of vaccines. And they're so bad at it that, first of all, the Army keeps horrible records. So if you're going on a deployment and they don't have your records for whatever shot that they need to give you at that time, depending on where you're going, they're just going to give it to you again. So a lot of times you will get repeated doses for all of these vaccines. And it was the side effects from that where I started to wake up. And then honestly, Jack Cruz, if you listen to him on the Danny Jones podcast, there is no way I would let a needle anywhere near my arm, my son's arm, my grandbaby's arm. I mean, it is just unbelievable what they are putting in these vaccines.
Yeah, this is one of those things where they might cut the feeds. So Jimmy crack corn, and I don't care. Okay, so and as far as the autism, if you listen to Jack Cruz's take on it, he's saying it's okay. Yeah, the vaccines are what actually put you over the top. Not everybody, but a lot of people out there. And with the benefit of hindsight, if I can go back and not have my son vaccinated, I would have done it. Had I known what I know right now, I would have never, ever. And it's a shame. With the benefit of hindsight, I'm not sure I would have ever joined the military because they're shooting you up with all kinds. I mean, I know of guys, my brother included, my youngest brother, where before the deployment to the Middle East in the first Gulf War, got a whole battery of shots, and they just put like a little check mark on there. Didn't even tell you what it was. And there's a lot of people that are saying that this Gulf War illness was a result of what they did there. Folks have been doing this a long, long time. And honestly, with the benefit of hindsight, if I could go back and not take another shot, I'll tell you what, they won't. You put something in me, I'll be putting something in you.
Well, and also something that I've learned recently, I knew the peanut allergies were probably as a result of a lot of the shots, but I didn't know the extent to which how peanut is such a how it's such a health food.
It was.
Right. It was until they started tampering with it. So that's just it's just another example of how you have something like Booker T. Washington did a lot of research on it. I remember learning it in school. And they've contaminated, that and the response to it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Okay, so where are you at on the cancer cures being suppressed?
I think that there's a lot of things that I think our medical industry as a whole has been completely corrupted. The Flexner report, the Rockefellers, there were things that were used before that were working. And also the cancer industry seems like it's a result of a lot of things that are being done to us.
Let me back up a little bit because a lot of people are not going to know what you're talking about when you bring up the Flexner report. The Rockefellers basically funded a report from this guy named Flexner, and his job was to go out there and find out which healing modality works the best. So, before that time, chiropractors, naturopaths, and
Homeopaths too.
homeopath. I mean, but in a nutshell, you had the chiropractors, the naturopaths, and the allopaths, which are the MDs we call today. You know, the people that think they're medical deities. They were all basically on the same. You know, everybody used them equally. Nobody had a preference. And what the Flexner report did was basically say, "Oh no, our Rockefeller medicine, the MDs are the way to go in all things." Even though, yeah, they may be good at diagnosis, but that's about it. And believe me, I heard that from one of the most noted doctors in the world. He said, "Yeah, you know, after he woke up, he said, the only thing we have right is diagnosis." Anyway, because of that report, that's why everybody feels like you get the sniffles, you go to an MD. You don't go to a naturopath. You get this ailment where it'd be probably better suited by a chiropractor, you go to an MD, because that is the way our society has trained you to go about it. But yeah, as far as these cures and these cancer cures, once again, SV40, simian virus 40, look that up and find out what happened there. And Jack Cruz probably does the best expose on how that happened. He does it in the Danny Jones podcast, and he also does it in a number of others. But yeah, find out what's going on there. Up until that happened, folks, cancer was not, you had to go far and wide to find an example of cancer once upon a time in the United States of amnesia. I kid you not. After what happened there, what's called the Cutter incident, I can't give it all to you right now, then all of a sudden cancer skyrockets. And when you know the history as to why and how that happened, it'll blow your mind. All right. So let me ask you about GMOs and vaccines. Do you think there's a depopulated? Like I said, this is one of those common conspiracies going around. What's your thoughts on using vaccines and GMOs to depopulate?
Oh, well, I definitely think it's happening. I mean, the whole notion, or the whole, whatever you want to call it, behind genetically modified foods is just, it's not a good idea. I don't know in whose brain this is a good idea. Like, our government has a history of manipulating things, and we have to deal with the unintended consequences. And at this point, I don't think they're unintended. I think they are completely intended.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Sorry to cut you off there. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There is nobody that's going to convince me. This is another thing. The same guy that brought you Operation Warp Speed, we seem to think he ought to have a place on Mount Rushmore. Folks, if you only knew, there was an expose done in Japan the other day. Mike Adams was part of the panel, and 600,000 people are now dead in Japan because of that jab. Millions in America. And there are a number of others out there. You're just not going to see them on Fox News. And then, folks, if you're watching Fox News, outside of just trying to find out what your enemy thinks, you need to find another source. Seriously. All right. So, did Lee Harvey Oswald kill JFK?
No.
All right. So I'll just leave it right there. And by the way, folks, more information just came out on that the other day. It's long been known by people like us, where there's a guy named George Joannides who was working for the CIA. He was Oswald's handler at the CIA. Folks, well, all these things that Trump was supposedly released about the JFK files, anybody asking the question, why is Lee Harvey Oswald's tax return still classified? Because the last 3 months before he got out of the Marine Corps, he wasn't being paid by the Marines. He was being paid by somebody. But to this day, it's still classified. That happened November 22nd, 1963, and it's still classified to this day. But this transparent administration was supposed to drop all these files, but it came out the other day. I can't remember the congresswoman who actually came out with it, where they openly admitted what we all knew is that Oswald had a CIA handler, and it was George Joanides. You want to know who he worked for on the side? There's a country in the Middle East that I'm not allowed to talk about. You may hear him a lot in the news today. But yeah, he was working at their behest. And believe it or not, folks, a lot of those files that did come out basically show what has been suppressed all this time. Look, there is a link to November 22nd, 1963, and there's a link also to the USS Liberty, the most decorated ship in the history of American warfare. Look it up and find out why it is. Look it up. And the same country was involved in every case. But folks, yeah, they're the master race these days. We're not allowed to talk about them here, or they'll cut the feed. How about that? Huh. Yeah. I can burn my own flag, but I can't burn theirs.
Yeah.
How about that? Huh. All right. So what are your thoughts on 5Gs and phones, and, are they deleterious to health?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're not even being truthful with how bad it is. Just like with everything else. I don't think that 5G is for what they say it is either. I think we're discovering how all this stuff is connected. I mean, I have some theories, but like there's so much that we don't know that is hidden from us. But whatever they say, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I generally go with the opposite. Okay. So, what are your thoughts on the Epstein thing?
I want to know everything. We're not going to find it out.
So you don't think we ought to just move on, huh?
Absolutely not. This is, yeah, no, we can't move on. We can't.
No. And here's the laughable, it's not even laughable, but the part that bugs me more than anything is, hey, you know what? This was all, held by the Democrats. Okay, then shouldn't you have led with this? You get Bongino and Patel, Harold and Kumar over at the FBI to come out and say, oh, yeah, they were saying, we're going to drop this stuff, pay him scam Blondie, as Ann Vandersteel calls her, basically comes out and says it's on my desk and then tell a bold-faced lie right there in front of everybody the other day. All this stuff going on. And then Trump finally says, well, it's been corrupted by the Democrats. Okay, I didn't just step out of the cotton fields. If that was the case, you would have led with that. You would not have, you're doing cover for the Democrats? That makes no sense.
It's more of his 5D chess that he's playing.
My bad.
It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that nobody in Washington wants these names released because they're probably all on him. And him at the top of the list. How many pictures do we need to see of him with Epstein? How many? And you're telling me, come on. No, I'm not buying it.
No, it's it's crazy, it's stupid, and it's an insult to my intelligence. But I tell you who is buying it, a whole lot of boomers out there. They're like, yeah, we ought to just go ahead and move on. He's not taxing our Social Security anymore. They shouldn't have been taxing it in the first place. They shouldn't be taking any of your money in the first place, okay? Go back, read that thing we call a Constitution. Folks, they're stealing, robbing you blind, and most people are just happy with the crumbs we're getting.
Didn't Donald Trump and Melania meet because of Epstein?
How about that? People like Rick Wiles from True News have been reporting this years ago, but now it's a conspiracy theory. And all of a sudden, I'm supposed to believe, look, y'all, if there is nothing on this planet I detest more than a pedophile, and I'm not kidding when I say they ought to be stuffed in wood chippers. I mean, I got some worse ideas, but anyway, I mean, it doesn't do well to say it here. But the point being is when I hear somebody say, well, yeah, I'm disappointed, but look at all the wonderful things he's doing. Whoa. Hold it right there, Jack. You're telling me all of these victims, and they are victims. And Dr. Tom Horn, before he died, was talking about how the shark population around Little St. James Island had went off the charts when Epstein was over there in his heyday. All the locals in these local islands over there were saying, man, we never seen so much shark. Well, what do you think they were doing with the people they raped and murdered? Yeah.
And the ones that survived, Virginia,
Go free, yeah.
Yeah, just wound up dead. She did not kill herself. She said she was not suicidal.
Yeah. And then she's dead in the graveyard. And, hey, I guess she just had that coming. And then, of course it creates a chilling effect for all the other people out there. And it's like these folks, these little girls and boys haven't gone through enough already. I mean, and the stuff they've reported there just make your skin crawl. What about Anthony Weiner's laptop? There were apparently New York City detectives who've seen some pretty grisly things, saw that laptop, and apparently things that may have involved Hillary Clinton and a number of others. Never seen the light of day on that.
But also, a lot of those people that were investigating that laptop have wound up dead.
Yep, nearly all but one.
I don't mean like one or two. I mean like double-digit numbers. People have wound up dead.
Yeah, after looking Weiner's laptop, Huma Abedin, all these other people, and you're telling me nobody's talking about these other things, but they're all connected. Folks, we don't have a country. I mean, that's why somebody was singing God Bless America. I'm like, what? I mean, you're telling me the Lord can bless this country when you have known pedophiles, or you're willing to just say, oh, I'm okay with this because my horse is in the race right now. Okay, what happens when he's not? So, folks, as far as, people writing on my Twitter account, don't give up on Trump. What? I've given up. Are you kidding me? First of all, I never trusted him in the first place. Remember that poem that he did a while back during his first campaign? Everybody assumed he was talking about Hillary Clinton. Everybody assumed that snake poem. You knew damn well I was a snake. I mean, that's how the thing ends. It always bugged me from the word go, because I'm like, hold on. Everybody assumes he's talking about Hillary Clinton. He did that poem over and over again. And from the very beginning, I said, man, I wonder if this guy's talking about himself. Because part of the lesser magic of the people that are into these things is that they have to, in some way or another, reveal what they intend to do to you. And I wonder if that's exactly what he did, because you're not going to tell me he just doubled down on stupid with the statements that he's recently made. Like you said in the very beginning, it's like, piss on you and all you other peons out there. I'm not giving you, look, it's a hoax. If that's the case, then maybe we ought to go on a campaign to get rid of, who's that broad they put in jail?
Maxwell?
Yeah, Maxwell, who, by the way, her dad was a Mossad agent. So was she. The woman knew how to pilot submarines. Okay?
I'm sure she just picked that up on the weekend.
Yeah, you just did a online course to drive submarines. The woman knew how to drive freaking submarines, and a number of victims said there was underground passages into this place. Are you kidding me? FBI got all that information supposedly from that island, but ain't nothing to see here. Folks, I know we spent a whole lot of time on this, but I think it deserves to be. And that's why I'm telling you, get your house in order. Because if you think the good Lord can bless a country that is okay with this, look, there are a number of you out there that I know you're as upset about this as I am. I couldn't be more, folks, for a couple of days, I had to just not even look at anything in the news. Anything. And yesterday she was fit to be tied, and we're going to get into that. So we're going to get off the Epstein thing. And that's about all I intend to say until another lie comes out. So I'm going to ask you about the thing that is really, really deep into your wheelhouse, and a little late getting to it, but what are your thoughts on these chemtrails?
Okay, so I hadn't looked into the chemtrails. Obviously, I can look out the window and see exactly what's happening. I knew what happened here as far as the hurricane last fall, but Nicole Shanahan published an article on X, and that's what started me looking into it. And if you don't know who Nicole Shanahan is, she was a supporter of RFK. I'm sure she's probably not anymore, but
No, she's definitely not anymore. And by the
Yeah.
way, no, that's not when you started looking into it. That's when you just looked into it over the last couple of days.
Well, that's when I really started. When I say started looking into it, I mean like looking at the documents from our these are government documents that have gone back for decades on all of the exact things that they're doing as far as weather manipulation. And you can go, she did a post on X about it. You can go read her post. All the documents are linked. This is not something that just happened yesterday. This is something I honestly don't think we even know what actual weather is. That's how bad it is.
That's what Dane Wigington said.
He's absolutely true. And there is a lot here, but there's millions being poured into weather manipulation that they can track. I think there's a lot of black budget that's also going into it. But you can go to her post, you can read her post, you can read all of the documents associated with it. I'm just getting through some of them. But just so you know, some of the highlights, there's $320 million of our tax dollars that are going to universities and nonprofits and organizations like NOAA and NASA, National Science Foundation, U.S. Geological Survey, and the Department of Energy. There's a 1979 weather document that she referenced and she linked. This is 1979 that described nearly 100 geoengineering projects at that time. And it includes hurricane manipulation, radioactive and electromagnetically enhanced fog dispersal, cloud seeding operations. The list goes on, and there's so many organizations involved. But there's one thing.
Well, let me just go back let me just throw this in there. You know, we have a treaty, a weather weapons treaty, which happened after Operation Popeye in Vietnam. Now, if I'm sitting here arguing with people who ordinarily are pretty intelligent, and they're like, "Oh, we can't do that. We can't." I'm like, "What? We were doing it well far back before Operation Popeye, but we were doing it in Vietnam to flood the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Since that time, we have a weather weapons treaty out there. You have LBJ openly discussing the fact that he who controls the weather controls the world. That's his quote exactly.
But also that treaty was brought up. There was a U.S. Senate hearing, and people brought up the Senate, Congress had concerns about this weather manipulation, and the attitude of a lot of these government agencies was, listen, I know that there's issues, there's human health issues, but we're just going to deal with it later. We're going to do this, and we'll deal with it later.
So this isn't a conspiracy theory, as so many people out there. And like I said, it ain't just boomers on this one. There's people well within my generation. And look, there was a guy who was a first-class charlatan. He said, no amount of evidence can shatter a faith consciously based on a lie. And I truly agree with that. I mean, but there's some people that are highly invested, but go ahead.
So first of all, there's so much information here. I just want to bring up a couple of points, and I want to give you the information so that you can research this yourself. There was Nicole Shanahan did a podcast with Peter Kirby. And I listened to the podcast, and there were a couple of things. He thinks the CIA is the number one agency that is involved in the weather manipulation. And he also said, she said, what is being sprayed on us? In his response, one of the things that they know for sure is coal fly ash, which is a toxic waste. The EPA classifies it as toxic waste. So in these powerhouses, this coal burning powerhouses, they have these things that capture this toxic waste to prevent it from going out into the atmosphere. And they're capturing that and they're dumping it all over the United States. And when the hurricane happened, Dr. Will looked at this area and he was like, this is a radioactive mess.
Through satellite data at first.
And he was like, what is going on there? And he didn't believe it. But one of the documents that is linked in Nicole Shanahan's post, it explains exactly what happens. Like, a lot of these, coal fly ash is composed of aluminum, arsenic, barium, cadmium, chromium, lead, mercury, thorium, uranium, and it's in small enough particles that it can be inhaled. And it's also been described as being, coal fly ash has been being described as more radioactive than nuclear waste. So when I read this, of course I was like, oh, that explained it. I'm sure it was sprayed all over this whole area, and then they used all of their weapons as far as radio towers, all of those, to make it even worse.
And you can see it on geoengineeringwatch.org. There's a 90-second video. You'll have to go back regarding Hurricane Helene when it hit Western North Carolina. If you look at it, folks, if you can look at this video and still believe the official story that they can't control the weather, I don't know what to tell you. What happens, in a nutshell, what Michelle's telling you, they fly over, they drop this, and this is what we know about. And of course, there's a whole gang of other things, that the nanoparticles. Remember the last thing Julian Assange talked about before they threw him in the slammer? It was about this magic dust, these nanoparticles. And now all of a sudden, that's when they snatched him up, and all of a sudden Julian Assange is in the slammer. But anyway, they dropped this stuff from these planes in amounts that will absolutely positively blow your mind. And then it entwines with the storm, and then they can use the NEXRAD radar towers and a number of other towers out there to steer these things. They did it. You can see it all the way back from Hurricane Harvey. They did it with the one that hit New Orleans. I mean, so many, that the one that hit Puerto Rico. There's so many of them, you can't even count them up. And they even have offshore means and boats that are able to do this sort of thing. But it was like T from Mountain Readiness often said, how is it so hard to get people convinced that they can control the weather, but they'll believe that we can do things like test tube babies, go to the moon, and all this other stuff. You'll believe that without question, but you will not even, I mean,
well,
faster than light travel.
I think the thing that bothers me is they think that I am somehow manufacturing this. And a couple of books that that Peter Kirby talked about. Number one, Clouds of Secrecy, which talks about some of the Army's experiments they've conducted, and also In the Name of Science, a history of secret programs, medical research, and human experimentation. So there's two books you can look into. I've already ordered them. You can look into exactly what they have done to us. And I mean, there's proof. They've sprayed LSD. They dosed people in the 50s and 60s secretly with LSD just to see what would happen.
Oh, it gets even better. People think, well, if they know anything about it, like the Tuskegee experiment, you knowingly shot up. This is why, folks, I mean, y'all laugh at me. You think I'm joking about this, but I'm not. In fact, I need to wear that shirt more often. The fact is, we are all niggas now. And I'm not being, I mean, yeah, it's funny, I guess, to a certain extent, but it's the truth. It's the truth. They used to do this like with Monsanto. There's The World Against Monsanto. There's a documentary. They're going into black neighborhoods down in the South, and they were dumping this crap out there because ain't nobody worried about these coons. That's exactly what they thought. And then, okay, so what do we know about what Bill Clinton even apologized for Operation Shad, where they knowingly shot up Navy guys who had survived World War II. They shot them up with nuclear waste just to see what would happen. Just to see what would happen. They knew since 1953 that Agent Orange would kill our own soldiers. Not to mention all the Vietnamese that are still dying from it over there. They knew it. And they still put it out there, knowing full well that it would murder these people and murder our own soldiers. So you think, oh, only 53,000 died in Vietnam? Got news for you. You better multiply that by about 5 or 6, because a lot of those guys died in Vietnam. They just didn't know it until years later, when after they got home, when those cancers just showed up. People like your dad that have almost certainly worked on the planes that were dropping that stuff. So, folks, the casualty list is much deeper and longer and more extensive than anybody's willing to talk about. But these are things that I could talk about some other stuff too, where your government knowingly did it to you. So what is the good news in all this? I mean, Michelle's basically got pages of notes here, and we're not going to get into all that. The bottom line is, folks, yeah, there's a whole lot that sucks right now that's going on in the world right now, but you got time to do something about it. You can sit here, you can think about what you're going to do this weekend. Oh, I'm going to go to the lake. I'm going to go get drunk. I'm going to go do A, B, blah, 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 blah. Well, folks, the wheels are coming off this cart. You have 12,000-year storms in 3 days. And since that time, we've probably had another 10. And what are they going to tell us? It's sunspots doing this?
Well, apparently.
But all of them are preceded with heavy chemtrailing and next rad radar towers.
And also part of this, especially the coal fly, part of this is just so that you can know what's going on, know what chemicals, and look up and find out. Like if you're having health problems, if something's going on and you can't, because it's not like you can go to your doctor and get any kind of answers. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. So part of this is just to say, hey, if you're having any kind, this might be a someplace you can look.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the good news. Well, slightly good news, I suppose, is what we found out. And thanks to Ariana Master, she's been on this program before, is they are radiating. I can't even tell you how many places in the United States when you see those waves in the clouds, y'all, when you see clouds that don't look like clouds, that means they got the radar towers kicking full steam. Okay. And that may be responsible for maybe some of the anxiety I know there's a lot of talk about it on Twitter. Into Thin Air, the number 2, Into Thin Air talks about a lot about it on there. And all of these people feeling lethargic, they just can't keep the brain working right. We've dealt with it here as well. And one of the antidotes, at least in my book, is getting plenty of sunlight when you can and grounding as often as you can. I mean, it helps to bring in those fresh electrons is one good way to keep yourself a little bit squared away on some of this stuff. Folks, I wanted basically for you to hear it from a woman's perspective, because a lot of women out there feel reluctant to even talk about this stuff or examine it. It's an awful scenario. It's crazy. It's stupid. Frankly, it seems almost unbelievable. And it is to the normie out there. But you don't have to be them, folks. There's a reason why we got the tagline to our show. Okay? There is a reason why we do this. And the idea was not to make you afraid, but look, they are literally trying to poison you in every single way possible. And RFK Jr., which honestly, he's an embarrassment. He's turning out to be, you're okay with mRNA jabs, self-replicating at that. You're okay with that. You've talked extensively about what they could be dropping from the sky, and now you're going to give us this BS excuse, oh, it's coming from the jet exhaust. When if you were to put any of the fly ash in the freaking gas of a jet plane, it would gum that engine up. They'd be falling out of the sky. I only wish that could happen, but it's not. Anything you want to add?
No, I would just say I think we're working on maybe some potential solutions, and we'll just keep you posted when we become more familiar with them.
Well, I'm glad you did bring that up, because I kind of lost my track there. Look, that's what we're going to be talking about partially on Sunday, is how we got past this. Like Michelle said, when they dropped all that junk in the air, of course, they were chemtrailing like nobody's business. Radar towers steered that storm, held it in place. dump the equivalent of 3 years worth of Niagara Falls in 30 minutes over here. And Dr. Will, when he was looking at this stuff from his satellite data, he's like, man, it can't be this bad. That's why I met him personally. He was here, boots on the ground, because he couldn't believe the radiation levels were that far off the charts. And that's when we went to work trying to figure out how do we get solutions out there, folks. We're going to give you some. We're going to give you some on Sunday. Hopefully, I'm hoping we can get into that. If not, it'll be in a Monday podcast. It'll be in a subsequent podcast where we start talking about some of these solutions. But it's going to require something out of you. It could be, hey, it's going to be more than just extract and some other things. You got to have good management. I mean, I don't care how good the compost extract is you put out there. If you're still overgrazing, you didn't do nothing. I mean, you just wasted your money. Okay, folks, we're not into doing that. So we're trying to get you to get your gardens, get your house, get everything else squared away. Because even though they're dropping this stuff in record amounts out there, we have figured out that even through that, we still have solutions. And nobody's going to want to believe this. At least none of the powers that shouldn't be. All right, y'all. Hopefully that was a blessing to you. I want to thank everybody in the chat. And hopefully we didn't freak you out too much, but I thought it was cool to at least get it from a woman's perspective. So until next time, stay alert.
Stay alive.
Channel and nature, at the knowledge ring, roots that run deep, wisdom from soul, permaculture dreams. Let the ideas unfold. I'm grooving with the truth. Feeling nature's groove. Who's got the answers? All we need to do, listen to the earth, they got us through. Change, watch the world spin. From the smallest sprout to the harmony begin. In the cycle of life, where the magic's alive. To the